What's up, movie lovers? It's your girl Rossie, and I'm back with another awesome review. Tonight, we're going to review the 1977 funny comedy Richard Pryor's Which Way Is Up, and I have Jay Stakavel joining me again. Jay, if you guys remember, he's a friend of the channel. He's a screenwriter, producer. He has a book that he's writing, all of that. So let's get into it, guys. What's up, Jay?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. So you guys remember Jay joined us last year. It was last year, and I interviewed him. So if you guys remember, Jay's a screenwriter. He's like a producer. You got a book that's coming out, or
yes, I do.
That's coming out. We're going to talk about that a little bit after the review. But right now, I'm going to tell you guys this movie is a funny movie. To me, it was one of Richard Pryor's best movies, besides Bustin' Loose and all that at the time that this film came out in the 70s. I'll read to you guys a little bit about it so you know exactly what the movie's about, and then we'll ask Jay his first impressions or third impressions or fifth impressions, because we've probably seen it. I know I've seen it so many times. So you have an orange picker who is Leroy Jones, who Richard Pryor plays. And he inadvertently becomes a union leader and is forced out of town, leaving behind his sexually obsessed father, Rufus, who Richard Pryor also plays, and spouse Annie Mae, who is played by Margaret Avery. And Margaret Avery, I mean, she's been in everything. You guys will probably know her from The Purple Rain. She played I forget her name in not Purple Rain. I'm sorry, The Color Purple Rain. The Color Purple. Yeah. And she played. I forget. Do you remember?
Was it Shug Avery?
Shug Avery. She played Shug Avery, the beautiful Shug Avery. So that's who Margaret Avery is, and this is in her heyday. Like, this is when she was like super young. She's always been gorgeous, but you see her in her prime. He heads for Los Angeles, where he falls for a union organizer, Vanetta, who's played by the beautiful Lynette McKee. Annie Mae seeks solace from the local preacher, who also is played by Richard Pryor, Lennox Thomas, and who eventually impregnates her. When Leroy catches wind of this, he heads home for a showdown with Lennox, and it's funny when we get to that part. It is absolutely we're already laughing about it. It's absolutely funny. The movie was directed by Michael Schultz. And I also want to also Danny Valdez plays Chewie, and Chewie he's a big part of this movie as well. What did you think about the movie when you first seeing it again? What did you think about it?
Well, when I first seen it, I understand I was too young.
Okay.
But when as the years went on and I started watching it over and over and over, right. I love the movie. Right. I don't know how he could play all these characters. That was right. Shows the true talent. It's hilarious that all of them are really distinct.
Yes, they are. His dad, Richard Pryor's dad, who was let's see, what was his dad's name?
Rufus.
Rufus. Yeah. Rufus is absolutely funny. So in the beginning of the film, how everything happens is they're orange pickers. Okay, they work in a field. Okay. And Richard Pryor is up on a ladder, and he's overhearing this meeting from a group of workers that are trying to get a union started, okay? And he happens to fall off the ladder, and before he falls off the ladder, Chewie or the union, the members were asking, if someone wants to stand up and guide this union, be the first one to speak. And so that's when Richard Pryor falls off the ladder, falls in the middle of this group. They pick him up and they congratulate him and hold his hand up as the new person that's going to lead the new union or lead the workers to become a union. Okay, so that's how that happens. He has no idea that this happens. It becomes a problem because we have a character who's played by Morgan Woodward, and he's just referred to as Mr. The Man or Mr. Man. Yeah. Mr. Man, which is a playoff of The Man. Which is absolutely funny because the freaking rings throughout the whole thing. Tell him what happens after he's the union leader, or
So he becomes the union leader, gets the job, Well, first he gets ran out.
Yes.
He gets ran out of town.
Right.
And so he's writing his girl, and he's lying to her, which I would have did the same thing. I've been lying to. Oh yeah, I'm doing great out here.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Ends up becoming a painter, and meeting another girl.
Right.
Now, it's hilarious how he meets her when he's running. You know what I mean? And falls down, and he can't keep up with her. She's very athletic, and yeah, like the girls today. Just like the girls, like you're be athletic. You would think they'd be up. Nope.
Right.
She's very athletic. She was really athletic, and he had a hard time getting to that first date. Right. But once he got to the first date, and the promise was made. I don't know. Shall I ruin that part?
Well, you know, we can talk about it and out of order. It doesn't matter. The light stalking that he did of the woman, like Jay said, Vanetta, she is the love interest, the other love interest besides Annie Mae. And Vanetta is in Los Angeles. That's where Leroy Jones ends up going to run out of town to get away. And so he's from a small town. He has to be from a small town in California. Okay, one of those small country towns in California. And they have a lot of those. And so him going to the big city is something new and different for him. So like Jay was saying, basically, like when he sees Vanetta, he light stalks her. I mean, everywhere she's at, he's there. He sees her running. She's still athletic. He tries to keep up with her. Can't do that. Then remember they end up talking because he's everywhere where she's at, and he's presenting himself as a union leader, a boss, and he's come to LA to get the job done. And she's an activist as well for workers. So she's really into that, and she's heard about him. So he asked her for a kiss, and and she's like, really into him as sister and brother of the movement. And so he takes advantage of that and just totally just gropes the hell out of her. And she kicks his ass and supposedly breaks his arm. And the next day he sees her again, and he's across the street. He's like I said, he light stalks her across the street, shows her the arm, playing around. You can't help but fall in love with the guy. So then they end up hooking up and going out on a date to get together. But what's happening on the other side of town as he's moving forward?
It seems like she's moving on too.
Yeah,
the feeling was mutual.
Right, the feeling was mutual. Annie Mae.
Yeah.
Tell them what Annie Mae was doing across town as they're
partying. She was partying. She was getting promotions. She was doing, she getting a lot of promotions. She was partying and learning some new things.
Yes.
That come out later.
Right. Absolutely. So, I found that funny as they're showing, because what they do is they show what's going on with Leroy in LA, and then they're showing what's going on back home or across town with Annie Mae. And the little town that they came from kind of started growing a little bit, because you figure this is months at a time, and it started growing. And Annie Mae is a small town country girl. It's like they're from the South, you know what I mean? And she's not exposed to a lot of things. And as he's gone, she becomes independent. She starts working when she was a housewife, has a friend that she goes out with. And I mean, Annie Mae is kicking it. Okay. So yeah, she's having a hell of a good time. Anyways, though, so Leroy ends up getting the job that he's been wanting, the job with Mr. Man's company. And for the life of me, I cannot think of the name of the company, but it was like a canned food. The canned food company that he worked at. And so he ends up becoming the boss of the workers at that company, a lower level boss, okay, for Mr. Man, who is like the man. Tell him about that.
Well, he has he's a boss. He has he starts getting a little paranoid because of the rings. And
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. So these rings I guess all the people that work for the man wear the rings, and so he wants to get out of there too. So it was man, I'm still thinking about how he stalked her, but that was pretty crazy. I didn't think it was gonna work.
He was a little persistent.
I didn't think it was gonna work.
I didn't either.
I was like, nah, there's no way she's gonna go for this.
I didn't think it was gonna work either.
And all that.
Right.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Right.
But, he ends up being actually getting with her. They have Junior. Leroy Jr.
Yeah, that's right. She ends up having a baby. That's right.
You know, with the Lamars and all that, and
right. Yeah, right. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was that part right there. The Lamars part was funny to me, and then just I started to think I wonder off on like when they show the workers who were actually working for the man. It seems like that could happen. I feel like that could happen in the real world.
No, absolutely.
Like, oh yeah, you're with him, so I probably shouldn't say anything. He was scared.
He was, and him being scared, because Rich. If you've seen Richard Pryor movies, he has certain movements and things that he does, and so when he's scared, he makes these noises. The funny faces. It's just any little sound that he makes. It's for a purpose, and it's on purpose. There's a point that he's doing that. It shows his emotions, him being scared. So he was really intimidated by Mr. Man, being that he was the man. And there was a point where Vanetta ends up getting pregnant. So at this point, Leroy has two families, one in LA and one way across town. Okay. And at his wife, who Vanetta does know about. Vanetta knows about his wife because there is one thing that she mentioned. When her and Leroy first hooked up before they had the baby, she let him know, I love you. I know you love me, but you are never, ever to have sex with another woman. He can't be intimate with another woman.
And that's
even your wife. Yes,
that surprised me for that.
Me too.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting her to say that. Like what? Like
right?
Okay.
I never caught that. In all the times I've watched it, I never caught her say that.
Yeah, she said even.
So she knew.
Yeah, she knew. Like. She was with it. She was.
So she was okay. She knew he had a wife. Whatever story he told her, obviously his thing was, I have to go back home to keep up appearances, to make things seem normal and okay. But she knew that he was married, and she was okay with that. But he could not be intimate with his wife when he goes back to go and visit, okay, or to take care of business. So he has two active families. And Annie Mae, they don't have a kid together. Leroy and Annie Mae. So for him to have a baby with Vanetta, as we'll find out a little bit later, not the best. Annie Mae's not going to take that too well, even though she's out there doing things. She's
doing some things.
Doing some things. Okay. So which is going to be really funny when you find out who she's doing things with. But anyways, Vanetta and Leroy have a baby. They go get the baby baptized, or not baptized, but Vanetta's kind of a hippie like, type of woman. So it's kind of like not a baptism, but
that was a.
It was gosh, for the life of me, she was a holistic.
Holistic. That's the word.
Yeah. She was a holistic woman. So she believed in vibes, earth, all that type of stuff. So. Anyways, they go get the baby, what seems to be at baptism. And while he's there, he has to go upstairs to get some more juice or whatever that they need. They're in a motel or wherever he goes. He ends up catching, there's a union meeting that they're having in the next banquet room. And so he's spying in on that meeting. As he goes around, he notices there's a guy there with a gun getting ready to assassinate a union member or leader. And so he catches the guy ends up shooting, didn't shoot who his target was. Leroy's like, I didn't see you. I didn't see your face. I don't know. But he has all these bottles that he's holding. The guy ends up shooting at him. And thank goodness he had this crate of bottles that it didn't, the bullet didn't hit him. And so from that, the rings, he starts noticing the rings because we get a surprise appearance by Paul Mooney, who ends up playing the detective. And so as he's giving his story to the detectives, you know, telling what's happened, he sees that ring and freaks out.
Yeah, he went crazy. He did not like those rings.
No.
So, he left and he took his family with him.
He really did. That's right. He saw that ring, and the ring, you know, signifies power, you know, and you know, so that's basically what the rings mean. So you'll see the rings a few times throughout the movie, and you'll understand what the ring means and why he reacts the way he reacts when he sees the ring. So after that happens, he moves his family probably on the outskirts of LA to a really nice home that was given to him, you know, by his bosses, Mr. Man, because, you know, Richard is becoming important in the company. What he does, though, he becomes a company man, exactly. But he ends up hiring a lot of his friends that work with him, you know, in the fields. So he brings them on, and they're all happy for him because they're thinking that Leroy's going to do the right thing and start this union and do some strikes with that company. Richard, or Leroy, settles in and becomes a company man. And wasn't it funny? Wasn't it funny? He starts, he gets to a point to where he's riding around on those little golf carts at the job site. And if he sees one of his bosses standing up in the rafters looking at him, he'll all of a sudden switch up with his friends.
Become a real boss.
Right?
Like, yeah. That was crazy.
It was so
I know some
funny.
People like that.
his language. Yeah, I've met people like that switch up, you know.
Yeah, switch up real quick. Yeah.
Really quick.
A lot. Yeah.
He did, though. It was funny the way he would talk.
Yeah.
The suits that he would wear, you know, he has this whole change, and his friends start noticing, like, you know, what's up? You know, like a few months ago, we was in the field picking oranges. Now you too good to talk to us, or you too good to, you know, do what we were set out to do. Him being chosen as the union leader. No, Richard wasn't having that. He was having a nice little comfortable life, had the wife, the kid, the wife on the other town. Things get a little sticky. So Richard has to go back. The first time he has to go back home, tell them what happens when you got to tell them.
I got to tell him about that part. Okay, so yeah.
When he first goes home to see Annie Mae.
He goes home, sees Annie Mae, right? So he's ready to do some things with Annie Mae, and she's ready to do some things too. So they're in the bedroom, and he ends up pulling. Well, she handcuffed him,
right,
like on the bed, like handcuffed him face down, and so he doesn't know what's going on. And she whipped him, man. She was dressed up like a dominatrix. And was whipping him. He was not with it. Yeah.
I'm gonna kill you, bitch.
Oh man!
He threatened
That's my favorite part of that movie. That's my favorite part. I'm the kid.
I love that part. I love that part.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So Richard's trying to be faithful to Vanetta. Okay, he doesn't want to cheat with his wife on his Vanetta. Okay, and so when he goes back home, Annie Mae's like, her husband's back home, so she wants to spend some time with them. So she would get all dressed up, dolled up. And him trying not to break rules and betray who he really loves, you know, which is Vanetta. He would walk in the house and, like, you know, been a long day, got to get to bed. Ooh, I got to get up at 11 o'clock in the morning. And Annie Mae's just sitting on the couch like, you didn't say anything about, you know, my new robe that I bought, you know, a little sexy lingerie. And he says something like, you look good in pink. It looks really good on you. Got to get some sleep. So he would do that. And this left Annie Mae feeling some type of way. And they were having a cookout with a lot of his friends at home with Annie Mae. And so they're all out back, and Annie Mae's sitting with her girlfriends at a card table, and they're all talking, you know, women talk, you know, about, you know, their relations with their men. and Annie Mae has nothing to say. She has nothing to share, which makes them all feel like something's wrong with him, with Richard, with Leroy.
Yeah.
Is he gay? Does he have man issues? And then they start whispering. Everyone at the party's whispering. And to see Leroy with a cup as he's trying to take a drink of something, and he starts to notice that everyone is whispering. What are they saying? He realizes that they have come to the conclusion that he's gay. He doesn't want to be with Annie Mae. So he rounds his friends up, puts them on his car, drives them across town to let them meet Vanetta and the new baby, because no one knew that he had this secret life, this baby. None of his friends knew. So they go so he can prove, like, this is why I'm not, intimate with my wife. So that was the barbecue scene was really funny. But issues start setting in because we're at work and he's at work, and you got to tell him about the part where the friends or the Annie Mae's friend goes to the job because Annie Mae's pregnant.
That part. Okay.
When he's on the little golf cart, and that's when he's acting all uppity and his voice his dialect changes and all that.
See, my brain goes straight to the it goes straight to she cheated, he cheated, and then he gets punched. That's in my brain. I have recollection of that. Is that what part is that? What is that before that or after that? That part was right after he takes the friends to meet Vanetta, and then he goes back to when he goes to work that next day. Hey Jojo. He goes back to work that day, and Annie Mae's best friend shows up, and she goes to his job, and she's like, Chewy, I need to talk to you. So she tells Chewy about Annie Mae's pregnant. And so they're like, okay. And Richard's on that cart, and they're like, we need to talk to you. And his voice has changed. He's now settled in as really the company man. And when they tell him Annie Mae's pregnant, and how he flips, it's crazy.
He flips out, drives the freaking cart off the freaking job site, and they're like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I'm going to kill Annie Mae." So he shows back up at the house, and he goes in, and he's livid. He finds out she's pregnant, and she's pregnant by it was a pastor, Reverend Lennox Thomas.
Oh, you're talking. Yep.
Lennox Thomas.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh my gosh. And him as Lennox Thomas. Well, first of all, when he goes home and he and Annie Mae get into this funny fight where he's pretending to choke her, and who's the father, and she tells him, you've been neglecting me, so I sought counsel from my pastor, and that's what happened. Wow. So that's where the pastor comes into play. And that part where they're going back and forth to get back at Annie Mae, he tells Annie Mae, well, I have another woman across town and I have a baby, and his name is Leroy Jr. And then he tries to turn around and leave out. And all of a sudden you see that butcher knife being thrown at the door. Yeah. That to me was the funniest scene ever, because tables turned and Annie Mae was like pissed. Like,
she was real mad.
It didn't matter what she did. The fact that he had a woman across town and a baby. And she didn't even have a baby.
Yeah.
That scene was hilarious because you have Father Rufus who comes into the kitchen and then he sees that Annie Mae's trying to kill Richard or Leroy. That scene is funny. When you guys see that scene, you'll understand what's so funny about it. But introducing Reverend Lennox Thomas, you got to tell him about Lennox Thomas when we first see him.
Okay, so he's her reverend.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes.
And he's actually Richard Pryor, and this is him in his best role, I think.
Right.
In the movie, where he's just trying to explain everything, trying to just everything, and nothing ever works out, of course, in this movie. And so I think they get into an argument, don't they?
Well, the first time when he's introduced is when you see him at the church and he's on the bass.
On the bass, yeah.
And he's on the bass and he's playing on the bass. So that's the introduction to the Reverend. And what I found funny about that is him in that character as the Reverend, funny as hell, on the bass, pretending like he's playing. It's so hilarious. Then he gets up and starts preaching, and the way he made his voice sound like a Southern Reverend, I died during that part because it was just so funny, because he's telling the story about his 10 kids that he had, and the youngest one had a problem with asked him, "Daddy, is it a sin if I pee on my sister?" And he's like, "It's not a sin if you didn't do it on purpose." But then the sister pissed on him, and that was a sin because she did that on purpose. So that just gives you a little bit into that character. And so Richard is with Chewie because he wants to go. He goes to the church because he wants to kill this Reverend that he finds out. So he's spying, looking through the window of the church as this Reverend to find out who this guy is. And then he keeps talking about his wife. And then we meet Sister Sarah.
Sister Sarah. Yeah. She is something else. It was something else. I think that was my favorite character.
You got to talk about Sister Sarah and what Leroy did to get back at.
Okay, so he ended up, I would say, wooing Sister Sarah, and so after they got together, she said that she was doing it for revenge for her husband,
right?
And he said that he was doing it to avenge his wife,
right?
And she was mad about that for some reason. I didn't get why she was mad, but she punched him real hard in the face, and he laid down.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, she said she wanted a baby, and she was going to get one that night. That was
the funniest scene.
Yeah,
that was so funny because they're in this trailer, you guys, and so you see that. First of all, Sister Sarah is this really sweet church-going, woman, and her husband is very unfaithful because you get the gist that he's been sleeping with the women in the church. But she's really faithful, and she's a piano teacher. And so Leroy decides that to get back at Reverend Lennox Thomas, what he's going to do is he's going to woo Reverend Lennox Thomas' wife, and to basically do what he did to his wife. So he goes and signs up for piano lessons from Sister Sarah, and he says that his name is Mr. Goodnight.
That was his name.
His name was Mr. Goodnight. So Sister Sarah has this trailer with those beds back in the day that used to be folded up in a wall. Well, she has a piano, and she's he goes in there, and he has flowers, and he's just talking to her and trying to, he's coming on to her and all that. And she's just like, "Oh no, Mr. Goodnight, please. I can't, I'm a married woman." So he does to Sister Sarah what he did to Vanetta. He stalks her basically everywhere she was. He was. She was at a grocery store. He was there. So she ends up, like Jay says, she ends up going for it and falling for it. And as he's ending up getting ready to be intimate with her, things go awry because he then tells her, "I'm just here because to get revenge because your husband slept with my wife and got her pregnant." And she didn't take it well, and she whooped his ass on one side of that freaking trailer to the other side of that trailer. And then the way that she picked him up, because remember he would laugh about how strong she was.
Yeah, she was short though. She was short, but she was strong.
She was really strong.
Yeah,
and he would make note of that as he's trying to hold her down, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, you're really strong." That scene was funny. I love that scene. She ends up taking him, whether he wanted it or not. and she ends up pregnant. And it was so funny because he left out of there feeling like he was assaulted. I mean, when he shows up with Vanetta, he's in the bed and he's just got his blankets all, wrapped around his arm and his hands, and he's been assaulted by Sister Sarah. So we get towards the end of the film where everything just starts falling apart for Leroy. I mean, he starts forgetting about Vanetta. Obviously he and the wife is done with. Unfortunately, he goes back to the church and to confront the pastor, and Reverend other women start standing up saying, he got me pregnant, I have a baby.
A lot of women. A lot. He got a lot of women. He was gone.
Tell him what happens as they're chasing him out of the church.
Yeah, it was a lot of women.
Yes.
Crazy. And then so they chase him out. I think they might have caught him.
No, the tour bus.
Oh, the tour bus.
The tour bus. Tour bus.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he got hit.
He got hit by, it was one of those tourist buses that, you can go to Los Angeles and you can tour the stars' homes and whatever. And they happen to be riding in front of the church, and Pastor Lennox Thomas is running out of the church because the women are running after him, and the bus hits him, and it's the funniest scene because they go over him. You feel that bump?
Yeah, you feel it. I like that. Remember that part? that was too close to comfort. You can feel it when he gets ran over.
Oh, you can absolutely feel it. I mean, they flattened him. So the funny part is when they have his funeral and they show them walking out with his casket, the flat casket that he's in. The casket's just flat, just to play off the fact that he was ran over by the bus. But at that church, everything goes down that day because Chewy, who ends up being who was Leroy's really good friend, ends up hooking up with Vanetta.
Yeah, man, I didn't see that coming.
Not at all. I remember when he met her, and when Leroy brought them all over, and I remember he was like, "Oh, you're an activist too," and she's like, "Yeah," and they talked, but I didn't think anything about it. It just was took his whole family, took the baby, took the woman, and they drive out of town. So Leroy lost that. The wife is gone. He lost that, but. Mr. Mann is parked outside of the church. And I do want to remind you, or just tell you guys this. One thing that Mr. Mann did earlier in the film, which I thought was really degrading, which was supposed to be degrading, is when Leroy goes upstairs to that top office and he walks into the office of Mr. Mann, and he's going in there to tell him off. And when he goes in there, Mr. Mann's having lunch, and Richard sees the ring, or Leroy, I'm sorry, sees the ring, and the ring scares the hell out of him, like we said. And he's like trying to approach him to tell him we need to talk and all this. Mr. Mann's like not having it, telling him, you have no respect from your workers. And he's like, I'm done with my lunch. Would you like to have some?
Yeah, I was crazy.
And that part was just, oh my gosh, like made him eat the leftovers from him. So that was really degrading. So when he's able to tell Mr. Mann off at the front of the church, tells him off proper, like lets him know, I don't want a job. You can have that apartment back, because he did get him the house, and he walks away. He just walks up the street, and the famous song "Which Way Is Up" comes on.
Yeah.
What did you think overall of this film, seeing it as an adult again?
Seeing it as an adult, I think they should make more films like that. I think it was you can tell his talent. His talent is that, oh my God. Like, how do you play these characters?
Right.
Like, and it's so different. And I did enjoy the writing of it too. I forgot the writer's name. There's 3 of them. And it was I know it wasn't an adaptation from another.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Like that.
Yeah, it is. It's an adaptation. It's a remake of the 1972 film, The Seduction of Mimi.
Yeah, Mimi. Yeah.
Okay, and the writers on this film, let me see, because the writing was really, really good. I do have to say it was good writing. Like I said, Michael Schultz directed this film, and let's see, screenplay. Screenplay was by Cecil Brown, Carl Gottlieb, Lisa Wetmuller, Sonny Gordon. That's who the screenplay was by.
Yeah. I think you said Carl?
Yeah, Carl, just a second. Carl Liebman, writers, yeah. Carl Gottlieb, Cecil Brown, and Lisa Wertmuller. Mueller. Yeah, Mueller. So those were the three writers. Well, they were the writers from the screenplay, The Seduction of Mimi. Yeah. Yeah, so the writing was really good. I didn't know that it was a remake of another film.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
I did not know that.
I seen it in the front. I was like, what?
This is exactly.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Right. It was really good. I mean, I've seen it so many times, guys, and every time I watch it, I was on the couch just dying today watching it. It is a really good film. I don't think they need to remake it, but they need to make more movies like this. It was Richard Pryor in his peak, in his prime, doing what he does. I think it was after the other movies that he did with Gene, what was his name? You remember the Bustin' Loose and all those films. I definitely recommend you guys watch this film. It is a rated R film. This film is not for kids at all. I mean, this is an adult film. It is a real rated R film, and you guys would really love it. I think you guys would really like it. And if you don't know Richard Pryor's early work, this is definitely one to watch. I wanted to say something else about it. It was made in 1977. Oh, you guys can watch it on YouTube. I bought it on YouTube. I rented it on YouTube. High definition for $3.99. So, and you can YouTube lets you keep the movie for 4 weeks. So, other than that, I want to get to Jay because Jay does have new projects coming up, and let's talk about your new book, Jay.
The new book is called My Way, Jay. It's a motivational book, and so you'll get a lot of motivational quotes and stories about my life that correspond to those quotes.
Okay. Yeah. When can we expect that? Are you still? Is it still August?
August.
Congratulations, Jay! Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm shooting for August. If not October, because birthdays and whatnot and being busy. But, I'm shooting for August to get it out on August. But it's definitely I'm doing the editing process right now.
Okay. What else are you working on? Because I know that you always have a lot of things that you're working on.
The Mediation 2024. That we're working on that. We start casting for that in January 2024.
Awesome.
And then the mediation. Oh, you can check off all the stuff that I'm working on brainstormfilms.com.
Okay, brainstormfilms.com. Let me write that down.
And with a Z. Films with a Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, awesome. And you guys will find Jay's links in the description of the videos. You'll have his social media links where you can go to his page, check everything out. Jay, I'm always happy that you came back, and come back to the show. And I'm sure we're gonna obviously do this again. And you'll be back
like
again.
This?
Yes,
I want to do People Under the Stairs though. That's what I want to do.
Which one?
People Under the Stairs. That's the one.
Okay. All right, we'll definitely do that.
Got to do that one.
We'll definitely do that. I will definitely do that. I remember seeing that, when it came out, and it was really, really good. And I remember the trailers were really scary. And so, yeah, we'll definitely have to do that. I'll have you back because I'm going to do October comes around. And is that your daughter?
This is one of my daughters right here. She's happy.
Put her on camera.
Hi.
Hi, baby. How are you?
Good.
Good.
All right.
So as you see, Jay's a family man.
Yes.
You got two, right?
Two daughters.
2 daughters.
Yeah.
Following in your footsteps.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Writing.
Yeah. No, she's going to be basketball player, and then the other one's going to be an actor. And
really?
Then you got Omar, who's already.
Okay. So, wow. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, you guys, this is Jay Stakavel, Jeremiah Shabazz. You guys, like I said, following him on his Instagram. Everything will be in the descriptions. Jay will be back because we are going to review People Under the Stairs. We'll probably do that sometime in August if you're available.
Okay. Man, I watch that once every month. So,
do you really?
I mean, it's my favorite. I love that little kid in there.
Okay, all right. Then Jay will be back in August, and we're going to do People Under the Stairs.
Yeah.
And yeah, you guys, I appreciate you guys. To the listeners on the podcast, you guys, thank you. We just hit 14,000 downloads. It's going really fast. Thank you guys for listening, tuning in to Movie Lovers Unite, also Rossie Talks. Please, if you guys would go to Rossie Talks YouTube channel, hit a like, subscribe. That helps me grow. I appreciate that and appreciate you guys listening. And also check out Alex Haynes with A-Town Review, and check out John DeGregorio for Movie Lovers Unite. And we will see you again. My next show will be on, let's see, I have a show on the 12th of July. That's going to be our upcoming video game show with, we have Don Tucker, we have Jason Nichols, and also we have Trust. They'll be joining me for the 5 best open world games, okay? Because we're going to start getting into the games of summer and the upcoming games that's coming out this winter. Also, guys, I will get back into the series that we're doing, okay? So we'll get back into that. I'm going to double up on those series so we can get through that. And then I'm going to just stick to doing more movie reviews because I've seen a lot of awesome movies and I'd love to bring them to you guys. Until next time, guys, give me some time to get myself together because you know how this goes. Jay, stay backstage. Don't leave. And it's the Sandman. So we're gonna double up on the Sandman coming up in July, okay? But I got a lot of shows coming up and a lot of guests coming on. See you guys next time. Appreciate it, you guys.